everyone, and this is BioPhoenix here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a Super Famicom game, and that happens to be Cat's Run, Zen-Nippon K-Car Sensuken, or to make it easier, just call it Cat's Run. And the game was developed and published by Atlas, and it was only released in the year 1995 in Japan. Hence why I called it a Super Famicom game. And it's an arcade-style racing game that uses K-cars. So it seems like we're going to be skipping the story on this one again because there really is no story whatsoever, so now let's just get along with the gameplay. So this game has a single player and a multiplayer, and all you have to do in the single player is that you can select two different modes. So there's one-way or two-way, and before you ask, no, there's no three-way. So in the one-way mode, you race on every single track within the game in one single marathon. But in the two-way mode, it is much shorter since you only do a certain amount of tracks, but once you finish an arrow will appear telling you which direction that you're going to be going, and every direction you take will always take you to a different location, and some locations have easier tracks than others. So essentially, this mode plays a lot like Outrun. So after selecting the mode, then you get to select your character, and there's 10 different characters to pick from. And most of them range from Japanese chicks to one dude that happens to wear shades and a leather jacket. Now, one thing I am a little bit disappointed in Atlas with this game is that the game is called Cat's Run, but yet they didn't include their one mascot character they had, which was the cat from Rockin' Cats. They even included this character within the game Pieces on the Super Nintendo, which is a jigsaw puzzle battler type of game, but they never managed to put him in this game, which happens to be called Cat's Run, and even spells with a K too, so yeah, what a missed opportunity. Anyways, after selecting your character, you can select between 10 different types of cars, and they're all based after real-life cars. So you got one AutoZam, you got a Daihatsu, 2 different Hondas, 4 different Suzukis, and 2 different Mitsubishis. So now as for the actual races, it's a behind-view racing game, and you gotta win first place, just like most racing games out there. Now, with this game having some elements of Outrun, it also does have a little bit of elements from Super Mario Kart. So that one element just happens to be usable items. So you get boosters, bombs, and even one item that you can throw at people is a high heel. Seriously, what is this, Super Barbie Kart? So while it is interesting that this game does take a little bit of elements from both of those great games, but unfortunately my issue with some of the items in this game is that they're very far spread out, and the only way to get them is by running over them on the road. So it is cool that this game does have usable items, it's just unfortunate that you don't really use them enough. So with that said, now let's start taking a look at the controls. And surprisingly enough, I think the controls in this game are actually pretty good. So everything is really easy to understand for a racing game, you know, like you have your brake, you have your acceleration, you have your turning, and I find the controls do feel very responsive, although the turning can be a little bit slippery, but it's not as bad as some other racers that I've played on the Super Nintendo. So there's not a whole lot that I can say about the controls, but they are very simple, easy to understand, and they do feel very good. So that is a good surprise. So now let's start talking about the other things, like the graphics, and the graphics in this one are very bright and colorful and are actually really nice looking. So I do like all the backgrounds for each of the locations that you drive through, and I do like the character portrait that you see while you are driving. I find that part is animated very well. But as nice as it looks, I kinda wish there was a little bit more emotions to it, like for an example, if you like fall off the ledge somewhere, it would be kinda cool if they just did like a what the fuck kinda face. But other than that, it is a pretty nice touch. But the cars all look alright, I guess. I mean, they're kind of bland looking, but then again, a lot of these cars look like cube cars, and well, as you know that, cube cars are not the greatest looking. But I suppose that the cars that they're using in this game does suit with the way how the game looks, so I don't really have a whole lot of complaints other than that. So with that said, I do find this is a pretty nice looking game, very bright and colorful, and just really relaxing looking. And now, as for the game's music, I find the music in this one is actually pretty catchy and also sounds very upbeat and also really relaxing. And I think the music in this game is probably my favorite part because it's just so very soothing. So personally, I think they did do a really good job with making some very happy tunes. So now, if you want to go out and buy this game, so as you may know, it is a Super Famicom game, meaning that unless you live in Japan, you're more than likely gonna have to import it unless you can already find one at a local store. So just from what I've looked up, there's 2 loose copies that you can get for $25, and then there's 2 complete in box copies which vary in price. So there's one that's selling for $45, and then there's other one selling for $98. So if you want to get a complete in box copy of this game, I think it's best to go for the $45 one. But personally, even if you're going to go out and pay $25 for a loose cart, I think that's a little bit too much for this game. Now granted, I don't think $25 for a game is that bad, but I think for this type of game, I think it should have been at least like a $10 or $12 game, $15 at max. And I'll get to why right here. So, my overall thoughts on this game is that it's really not a bad game at all, but it's also not really a good game. I'd say it's decent at best, but a little bit more on the generic side. Which is kind of unfortunate since I really do like the graphics and the music, and of course the game is very playable. And I also like the idea where it mixes a little bit of Outrun with a little bit of Super Mario Kart. I just think this game just could have had a little bit more. Like, I wish this game had a lot more item variety, and of course also have like more items that you can pick up along the way. And maybe even have a little bit of a story mode. Of course I don't expect like an amazing story, but at least a little bit of something would have been decent. And I don't know, maybe a couple more unlockable cars and characters, but I think that may be a little bit asking for too much. But either way, for 1995, it's just an okay racer at the time. So if I did want to play a game that is very similar to this, I personally would go for Top Gear. But as I said, this game is definitely not like horrible or anything like that. It is very playable, but I'd say this game is more of a pick up and play sort of game where you just want to play like at least like one round or so and then just be done with it. Because after a while, especially doing that marathon mode, this game got pretty boring. So it is unfortunate that this game is kind of in the middle of the road scenario. Yeah, no pun intended. But anyways, as a huge Atlas fan like myself, it is a little bit disappointing, but it's also not like the worst racing game I ever played, very far from it. But I know at some point in time I would like to take a look at other racing games that Atlas has done, such as High Velocity on the Sega Saturn and Peak Performance on the PS1. So overall, it's just an alright racing game, and like I said before, this game I don't think is worth the $25 for a loose cart. Maybe $10 would be alright, $12 is decent, and then $15 would be my max. But if you at least just want to pick up the game and just play it for a little bit, then you know you can always just play it on your emulation stuff. So let's end the review here and say thank you for watching and commenting, and have yourselves a great day.